If you know, oh my gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to start delegating things. First step, start small. Don't try to delegate entire projects. Don't try to delegate entire scopes of work. Just try to carve out one small factor that you can try to hand off. The first lesson that every new manager needs to learn is that they can't do it all. How do I know that this is the first lesson that everybody needs to learn? Because when I talk with CEOs, heads of finance, heads of departments, whoever I am talking to, no matter how senior or junior, every single one of them says the biggest problem they had when they first became a people manager was delegation. They didn't do it. They got burned out. They felt overwhelmed. And so that is what we were going to talk about on today's episode of the Leadership Launchpad, delegation. If this is your first time on the Leadership Launchpad, my name is Matt Jertson. I'm the founder of Better Everyday Studios. Before I started this company where I get to talk to leaders all over the world every single day and help them become better, I was an Air Force instructor pilot. I was the head of training and development at SpaceX. And now, like I said, I get to talk to some of the most innovative and amazing companies on the planet to help make their managers and their teams better. When it comes to challenges that every manager faces, delegation is absolutely one of them. And there's a couple of reasons why this is understandable. And so I want to walk you through the places that this challenge with delegation comes from, the impact that it has, and then some of the things that you can do about it. So where does this problem with delegation come from? Well, it comes from who we are promoting. And I'm not saying we're necessarily promoting the wrong people, but when you first get promoted from individual contributor to people manager, it's based on your individual contributor work, right? As an individual contributor, it's on you to solve the problems. You get celebrated for being the one who can work the hardest, who can make the fix, who can do the presentation, who makes the sale, right? It's all about you. And you stack those performances over, months, quarters, years, until eventually people say, hey, you know what's going on. Let's promote you. Let's make you a people manager. And so you're the greatest at what you do. You get put in charge of a team and you fail to make that switch, right? You fail to make the switch and realize that the key switch when you go from being an individual contributor to a people manager is that it's no longer about what you can do. It's about what you can help your team do. Right? And because you were promoted as a great individual contributor, chances are you might be the most technically proficient person on your team, right? You might actually know the best way to do it. You might actually be able to do it fastest. And so as a result, that's the strongest tool in your tool bag. And so you keep reaching for your skill set, your primary technical skill set in order to solve the problem. So when you see a mistake, you just fix it, right? That's what happens. Somebody sends you their work, somebody sends you a draft email, and rather than saying, oh, these comments were in the wrong place, or oh, I would reword it differently, you just kind of reword it and do it differently, right? You see something come in, you see some bit of work come in, and you could task it out to people on your team, but you can probably do it faster. And so you just do it yourself. And at first, that can seem great. I've had previous episodes on pace setting, and this is really what we're talking about here, where it can seem great, like you're taking charge, you're taking the lead, you're showing people how to get things done. But ultimately what that means is people aren't learning. People are feeling disengaged. People maybe feel like they're being micromanaged because you're telling them not what to do, but how to do it, right? Because you're used to completely controlling the how, not just the why or the what, but the how, because you were the one doing it. And so you're taking that individual contributor mindset and bringing it into this situation. So for the people on your team, it causes lots of problems. but it also causes a lot of problems for you because you now have all of these new responsibilities as a people manager. You're supposed to hold one-on-ones. You're supposed to help set goals. You're supposed to just have all these conversations, interface with other teams, bring information back to your team. And if you keep trying to do all the individual contributor work in the same way that you did before, if you keep trying to put it all on your shoulders, this is where the burnout happens. This is why it feels so overwhelming. And so your team becomes disengaged. Maybe some of them quit. Maybe they're not as productive as they used to be. You feel overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? And maybe you quit, or maybe you decide you just want to go back to being an individual contributor. And this happens everywhere. This happens to the highest levels of people who've been leaders forever. When I was in the Air Force, the common thing we always used to say is that every person is trying to do their last job. And what we meant by that is in the Air Force, you go from being a squadron commander to a group commander, and a group commander to a wing commander. That's kind of the levels of promotion. And every group command, you're only a squadron commander for 2 years. And so as soon as you figure it out, you get promoted to be a group commander. You become a group commander. There's this whole new level of responsibility that you have, but you don't know how to do it. So you just do the easiest thing and you keep being a squadron commander, right? And you kind of pretend you try to be a squadron commander rather than moving into all your new roles. And then as soon as you figure out how to be a group commander, you become a wing commander. And then you spend all your time there trying to be a group commander still. You keep hanging on to the responsibilities of the past instead of stepping into these new responsibilities. So it's common for people who are leaders for decades even. And I know, like I said, from all my conversations, that it's an extremely common thing to happen in, technical leaders in any company. So you're not alone. Like, I'm not trying to say that you're doing anything wrong, because it's natural, right? That's the point of everything I just said. There's a natural understanding of how you get here. But regardless of how you got here, it has some serious impact. So what are we going to do? How can you improve your level of delegation if you know this is an issue to you and you're just not sure what to do? Right. Well, I think there's three major steps. There's lots of, models on delegation, different ways to do it, different levels of delegation, which I think are really important. But let me just give you three super tactical bits of advice, things you can start doing right now. If you know, oh my gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to start delegating things. First step, start small. Don't try to delegate entire projects. Don't try to delegate entire scopes of work. Just try to carve out one small factor that you can try to hand off. Let me use a very real example for me right now with this very podcast, right? I'm growing a business. I use this podcast to help get my name out there. I also have a lot of work to do, right? I'm podcasting. That's great. I enjoy doing this, but it's not my job. It doesn't pay the bills. I have all this client work to do. I have sales work that I need to do. And so for the longest time, I've been trying to just, the thing is I've gotten really good at producing this podcast. I record it, I produce it, I can produce it really, really quickly, but it still is an element of time. And so for the longest time, I've been like, oh, I should just get rid of it all. I should get rid of it all. And finally, the way I solved this problem was I didn't get rid of all podcast production. I just got rid of podcast scheduling, right? So I just took this one little bit of the whole production process and hired somebody to help me with just that little piece, right? And they did that for a while, for several months. They got really good at that. And now I'm in the process of saying, hey, here, take on the production as well. So I record it and you produce it. Maybe in the future, I can have them help me with all the scheduling that's associated with it, in terms of like getting the guests, scheduling the guests onto the show, right? So it's a little piece at a time. So if you're not comfortable delegating, see if you can find kind of the smallest bits of work that you can hand off so that you can start exercising that delegation muscle. And the second step is really important though, of when you are passing off that delegation, be extremely clear about the outcome that you are trying to achieve. Don't necessarily focus on the way you want them to achieve that outcome, but make sure you are hyper clear on the outcome that you are trying to achieve. I love this. When I first learned about Agile and Agile concepts, one of the phrases from Agile that I love is definition of done. Right? When you're handing off a task or a project, what is the definition of done for this item? Right? That way there's no confusion, there's no question, because I think we often, when we're handing things off, language can tend to be very imprecise, and we might think something being complete means one thing, and the person we're handing it off to thinks it means something else. If it's saying, we want to design a part, for a product, you hand off, hey, go design this part. And in your mind, the design has been, drafted up in CAD. It's been signed off by, it's been reviewed by other engineers. It's like ready for production. Whereas in the person's mind that you've handed it off to, they just start with the CAD model and they think they've gotten step 1 of 5 done, and they think that's done. And so really being hyper clear about what the definition of done is really, really important. And then the final thing is setting the appropriate check-in cadence, right? I think that's another thing that can, the first instinct for people when they want to start delegating is they go against all this stuff. They take a big scope of work, they hand it off, they do a really poor job of defining what done is, and then they expect to check in 3 months from now when all that work is done. And so then 3 months go by, they get there, and it's completely not what they were expecting. It's either done wrong or it's not done to their definition, all because they didn't communicate. And so then they're like, oh my gosh, I can't hand anything off, and they just suck everything back into their responsibility. And so the first thing is you make it small, you hand it off in small chunks, you get very clear of the definition of done, and then depending on the size of it, you set appropriate check-ins. If it's going to take a day to do, because that's how small the thing that you signed off on, maybe you don't need any check-ins. You just say like, hey, go do it, or maybe you check in at lunch or something like that. But if it's going to take a month to do, then make sure you're checking in every week to see how the progress is going. Don't be micromanaging, don't nitpick everything, but this is your opportunity to check in and say like, oh, it looks like this thing is going wrong right here, or I see you're stuck on this. What are you planning on doing there? Have you tried that? There's a challenge that you may run into. What are some ways that you think you're going to be able to overcome that, right? So these check-ins become, one, a way for you to just make sure the progress is happening as you want it to. And then 2, it's a great coaching opportunity for you to talk to this person and, build up some of those coaching muscles as well. So like I said, delegation is something that everyone struggles with, whether you're an experienced leader or a new leader. But if you don't do it, it's going to cause a lot of problems. It's going to cause problems for your team because they're going to feel disengaged, like they don't have any authority, and they're just not going to want to work as hard. And then it's going to cause problems for you because you're just piling on these responsibilities to yourself, and eventually you're going to get burned out. So if you follow these 3 steps of start small with your delegation, be hyper clear about the outcomes you're trying to achieve, and then set an appropriate follow-up cadence or check-in cadence so that you can check in on the progress of the project, I guarantee you over time, you're going to get better at delegation, which is how you avoid that burnout. It's how you empower a team, and it's how you improve the performance for your organization. I hope you found that helpful, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Leadership Launchpad. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you are looking for help turning your organization's great engineers into great managers, me and my team at Better Everyday Studios would love to help. We deliver targeted and interactive training workshops that are designed to help build the 3 fundamental skills of any new manager: building trust, giving feedback, and setting goals. Reach out to me through matt@bettereverydaystudios.com so we can start making your organization better every day.